When I first started lifting, my arms were stuck at 12 inches. No matter how many curls I did, my arms looked the exact same in all pictures. I used to feel really embarrassed even when I'd wear normal t-shirts because I was working out hard in the gym, but any shirt I put on fit me very loosely. Now my arms are just under 16 inches and I did it without any weird angles, a bunch of junk volume, or stupid fitness influencer workouts. I did it with everything I'm about to share with you in this video. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what I did to take my arms from skinny to jacked, and I'll share the 3 movements I used to do that and the ones I still use till this day. If your arms are skinny, it's not because of bad genetics, it's because you're training them like an afterthought and you're not taking it seriously enough. When I first started in the gym, I would only train my arms at the end of my push and pull days, treating them like an afterthought and not giving them the real love and attention that they deserved. So this is what I learned. Arms respond best to progressive overload, just like any other muscle group, like squats or deadlifts. For your legs or your back, your arms are the exact same. They respond the best to compound lifts with progressive overload. Another thing I learned is you need a lot of frequency when it comes to training your arms. You don't train biceps and triceps once a week. You want to train them at least 2 to 3 times a week. Okay, let's actually get into the movements I did to build my arms so that you can too. All right, guys, how I fix my skinny arms plus my favorite movements. First, I want to cover why your arms aren't growing, and then I'll get into some of the movements. So, number 1, no progressive overload. Guys, like I briefly covered already, you need to be upping your weight and reps in the gym for all lifts, not just your arms, but for your arms specifically in this video. That's what it's about. We need to be progressively overloading in the gym for our biceps and triceps. And this simply means increasing the reps or the weight, or even controlling the weight better or more slow than last time in the gym. So you can do slower eccentrics or slower concentrics. It doesn't really matter which one you want to do, but you just need to adjust the way that you're training a little bit. So each week we want to focus on going up in weight or reps, and we're tracking that in a notebook or a phone. Number 2 is just too much fluff. Basically thinking that the biceps and triceps are some special muscle group that need a bunch of volume. It's not true. They don't need a bunch of volume to grow. They actually grow relatively easily. You just need to hit them with a few hard sets a week and focus on the things I'm going to cover in this video in order to grow them. And the third thing is just doing weak compounds. For example, I see a lot of people just doing typical tricep pushdowns or doing tricep kickbacks, and then for their curl or for their biceps, they'll do things like preacher curls. In and of themselves, none of these movements are bad or wrong, but I do believe that you should hit it first with a bigger movement, and then you can do those as kind of like isolation movements for your biceps and triceps afterwards. For example, if you're doing an arm day, I would do close grip bench press, and then I would superset that with a barbell curl. And then I would do those 2 movements for my triceps and biceps, and then afterwards, if I wanted to do a preacher curl or a tricep push down, that's fine, because those are more isolation movements versus the compound movements. So I like doing the compounds first because then you can put a lot of strain on the muscle. You'll be able to barbell curl a lot more weight than maybe a preacher curl or whatever. So swap the weak compounds or just doing isolation movements for your arms, and add compounds and then isolation movements. Because you think about it, just like any other muscle group, if you were just doing leg extensions and hamstring curls for your legs probably wouldn't grow very much, right? So for your biceps and triceps, it's the exact same. On your leg day, you don't only do leg extensions and hamstring curls. You likely do squats or deadlifts or barbell RDLs first, and then once you do that and you hit the compound, then you usually do your accessory work with your hamstring curls and your leg extensions and your calf raises. But for some reason, when it comes to arms, we tend to forget this, because it's a secondary muscle group, that we don't hit it first with a compound movement like close grip bench press and then a barbell curl. we only go to the accessories, but we shouldn't do that. We should hit it with the compound first. So my actual fix for this, so these are the 3 movements that I like to do for my arms, and I still do some of them today. The first one is weighted dips. So a lot of people know that weighted dips are great for your chest development, but what a lot of people don't know is that if you actually have a more upright torso when you're performing the weighted dip and you don't lean your chest so forward, your triceps are going to be doing most of the work. Okay, so your shoulders and your chest will get involved, they will get activated, but most of the load will be on your triceps, and you can load it up very, very heavy. I got up to doing 5-plate weighted dips for multiple reps before I stopped doing them. I simply stopped doing it because I felt like it was starting to be a little bit unsafe, and I wanted to just make sure my shoulders were okay. But unless you're doing like 5-6 plates on weighted dips, there's no reason for you to be worried about it. You can train them heavy, just be careful and train it properly. Next, for the triceps as well, is what, like I briefly mentioned earlier, is close grip bench press. I really like this one for triceps because you can go super heavy, and it does also activate the chest a little bit, but if you keep your close grip a little bit closer than shoulder width, it'll be mostly tricep, and I've found that if I don't go all the way down to my chest, I'll feel it most of my triceps as well. So that's a quick hack that you can try. And then for the biceps, like I mentioned before, I would do a compound first, like a weighted chin up for your biceps or a barbell curl for your biceps. Again, that doesn't have to specifically be a barbell curl. It could be like a cable curl as your quote unquote compound lift. My point is that you want to have a primary lift for the muscle group first before doing an accessory movement like a cable curl. But if you think about it, the cable curl and the barbell curl is a pretty much exact same pathway. If you see what I'm saying, like it's the same movement. One's just a cable and one's a barbell. But it's a little different versus like a tricep push down and a close grip bench. They're different movement patterns, if that makes sense. I hope I didn't make that complicated. But so the hammer curls, yeah, I would personally call that a compound movement for your biceps because it's dumbbells, it's free weights, it's not a machine. So I like to train hammer curls for my biceps because it trains the brachialis, which is the part of your bicep that makes it look thicker from the side. And who doesn't want their arms to look thick from the side? So, all right, now that I've broken down the mistakes and the actual movements you can do for your arms, now I just want to share with you guys some of the key aspects of training this and keeping it in alignment with your goals. So you want to train your arms 2 to 3 times a week. Again, just like any other muscle group, the arms aren't special. You want to train them with the normal frequency of any other muscle group, 2 to 3 times a week. And if they're really a priority for you, I would definitely do them 3 times a week. I personally like to train 5 to 7 reps with 1 to 2 reps away from failure. I like to train lower reps because high reps feel like endurance training for me, and I like to lift as heavy as possible with good form. And so if you have lower reps, it allows you to go heavier with stricter form, I've found, than going higher reps. So next, you want to track these lifts. All right, so in order to properly introduce progressive overload in our training, we want to see what reps, sets, and weight we are doing every given week so that when we go to our next push or pull or leg day, whatever it is, we can see our data from our last session and we can make sure to up the reps, up the weight, or lower the rest period. Whatever it is that you want to change in order to introduce progressive overload, you can do that because you have the data. Super important. Next is a calorie surplus and just eating enough protein. I'm going to continuously repeat this because it's important, but for your calories, you only need to be in a surplus of 100 to 300 above maintenance. And for your protein, you only need to eat 0.8 grams per pound of body weight in order to build and sustain muscle growth. That's super important. You can train as hard as you want, but if you're not in a calorie surplus and eating the right amount of protein, then it's very unlikely that you're going to make the kind of progress that you want to make. Can you still build muscle without those things? Yes, but it's not going to be an optimized way to do things. You want to optimize everything that you can in order to get the best results that you're after. Creatine monohydrate, it's not a plug, but it's the most researched supplement that you can take for muscle growth. It's super cheap. I personally suggest that you just get creatine monohydrate. All the other fancy creatines are basically just a rip-off normal creatine and don't do anything better than creatine monohydrate does. They're usually just overpriced marketing garbage. So just get creatine monohydrate. However, the only caveat to that would be if you're getting a creatine that's mixed with other supplements, like a powder that's mixed with other stuff, that's fine. You can do that, but I wouldn't suggest getting like creatine HCl or creatine gummies or any of that. All that stuff's trash. So just get creatine monohydrate. If you want to get it mixed with other supplements, that's fine, okay? Also, if you're gonna get creatine powder, I would not suggest you do that because it tastes like salt and it's disgusting. Sleep 7 to 9 hours every single night and track it with an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch. Guys, this should be a no-brainer. You wanna be tracking your sleep. Recovery and rest is just as important, if not more important than your training in the gym. You wanna be making sure you're letting your body recover and giving it that rest it needs in order to grow, okay? Guys, if you want my help getting jacked, follow my Instagram at skinny2herculean and DM me and tell me that you came from YouTube looking for coaching, and I will send you a few DMs to see if you're a good fit for the program. Until then, subscribe, turn your notification bell on, and I will continue posting content for you guys. Peace.